Welcome to the Language of Excellence podcast. I'm your host, Nick Nighbor. I want to welcome you to the show. And let me start out with a couple quick questions for you. Are you stuck in your business right now? Have you plateaued with your LinkedIn business? Are you looking to grow your LinkedIn reach, your outreach? Are you looking to clean up and maybe optimize that profile? When's the last time you had someone take a look at your LinkedIn profile to make sure that you're getting the bang for your buck when it comes to your LinkedIn profile? These are the things that Mr. James Watson is going to help you here with today. James Watson has been a digital marketing and business growth expert for 15 years. He is the founder of More Results Marketing, and we have him here on the show here today. Let me pull him up on the screen. This is going to be a great show. Welcome, James.
Well, thank you, Nick, for inviting me. I'm looking forward to our conversation immensely.
Yes, this is exciting. I'm glad to hear. I spent a lot of time on LinkedIn. Obviously, you've been helping individuals and organizations with LinkedIn. I don't know exactly. I'm sure you probably know how many users are actually on LinkedIn, but big picture is you help individuals, you help organizations with getting more leads, correct?
Yes, absolutely. That's how it all started in any case. So I had a friend, this was back 4 years ago, four and a half years ago, and he was an agency owner and he was helping dentists that he was providing paid advertising services with Google Ads. And he was using LinkedIn to start conversations with dental practice owners. And he said it was the easiest lead generation and client conversion that he ever did. He didn't have to pay for the traffic. He just reached out to people. He connected with some dentists in his local area and reached out to them and started having conversation with them, asked them if they wanted some help, and jumped on a call with some of them, and some of them became clients. It's literally so easy. He couldn't believe it. And he said, James, you should try it too. And I was coming off a few years where I was a little bit in the wilderness. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, Nick. Maybe you can relate. Okay. I don't know how long in your entrepreneurial career you've been, but for me, it's like 15 years, which is like dog years when you're a business owner. And especially in the digital marketing space. So I've run e-commerce brands, multi-seven-figure training businesses, training people how to start e-commerce brands and build them. And that was all around the middle of the last decade. But around 2016, 17, I wanted to change. And I wasn't quite sure what to do. So when this idea came along to try LinkedIn outreach, I kind of grabbed it. I didn't know what was gonna happen. So I started reaching out to people and offering to help them with their LinkedIn outreach. And a whole bunch of people, I think it took me 12 phone calls initially in 1 month. I remember it was in April 2018 until I got my first client who said, yes, let's do it. And then once I got my first client, I think I had another 6 more clients in the next 2-3 months. And I was off to a $10,000 to $20,000 a month business at that point, which is pretty much what it's been ever since then for the last 4 years that I've been running it. Just helping clients privately leverage the enormous opportunity that there is on LinkedIn to grow businesses. If you provide services of any kind, especially in the business to business space, or even if it's in the business to consumer space, but it's high ticket, so it might be financial advice, it might be health advice, your ideal clients are on LinkedIn. You asked the question, how many accounts are there? I think LinkedIn is now estimating it's about 700 million. I think is the last time I saw it. It's just an unfathomably large number of people that are on LinkedIn. But it's not just the quantity of people, it's the quality of people. And what I mean by that is generally people that are more serious professionals, executives, business owners. The average income of the person with a on LinkedIn was $100,000 10 years ago. Okay, 10 years ago, the average LinkedIn family or the user base that had LinkedIn accounts was 6-figure earners, and that's only gone up. So if you're not just looking for any client, but you're looking for clients that especially have the ability, the means to pay for your services at a premium price, if you provide premium services, I recommend everybody should, then LinkedIn is just the ideal place to go finding people to reach out to and start conversations, relationships with them. And for those who there's a good match, make them an offer to go and work with you. It's really as simple as that, Nick.
And LinkedIn is amazing that way, meaning if someone has a LinkedIn profile, chances are they're employed by a company or they own their own business or maybe they run a company. They're on there because they have a business that they're looking to grow. So it's not unusual to reach out to someone and say, "Hey, John, looks like you're in sales over here. How are things going? Are you getting, are you hitting the goals that you need to hit? Or do you think maybe if I could share some ideas with you to help you increase it?" That's not a weird conversation. Now there's a piece there where you want to build a relationship, build some familiarity, build some trust. That's what the LinkedIn feed is all about, by creating content, whether it's writing articles or doing videos, engaging with others. Probably should have been mentioned maybe first. If you're doing those things, then it's very easy to reach out. And it's not a weird conversation. You're simply just offering your services. And it sounds like that's what happened when you said, "Hey, I'm going to go ahead and try to help some people." You just reached out. It wasn't weird. I'm sure some people ghosted you from time to time, but if you're on there and you're active, you're on there for a reason, right?
100%. Now, I think it's fair to say that there's been a big increase in the last few years of people using LinkedIn as an outreach channel for a variety of reasons, especially with the limited abilities to visit in-person events, trade shows, those kind of things,
Yep.
with travel restrictions in place recent years. It's meant that online networks such as LinkedIn have been one of the natural solutions to fill the gap that existed in many businesses' marketing plans. So there certainly have been more people, I think, that have been reaching out on LinkedIn and looking to use LinkedIn and find clients, much like there's been a big increase in people doing cold email, big increase in volumes of cold email over the last few years. It's very noticeable, more and more people doing it as it becomes more of a familiar channel, a tactic, a strategy to try and generate new clients. But the big advantage, the number one advantage that LinkedIn has, there are several, it's hard to just narrow them down, but the top advantages that LinkedIn has over completely cold outreach, say, for example, from cold email, is that it's very much a human-to-human connection.
Yes.
So we all have profile pages. So we are people reaching out to other people, and I have a profile page, you have a profile page. We can see a little bit and learn a lot about each other without us even needing to talk or communicate or message. That's an enormous advantage that when you're doing cold email, you don't have. If you're doing cold calling, you don't have that opportunity. Nobody knows who you are. People can't check out your profile before they choose to interact with you. So essentially, LinkedIn is a very social, a very humanistic way of engaging people and connecting with people that is just replicates what we do in the offline world when we network with people individually. And so with that said, there are obviously some do's and don'ts and some rights and wrongs,
Yes.
and some things you should never do in a million years. And probably the number one mistake people make on LinkedIn is that they just want to, as soon as they've connected with someone, right, I want to sell my services. I want to get you on the phone because that's what I want to do. It's not necessarily what you want or what's best for you or in your interest. And it's not necessarily very natural to immediately, if we just met for the first time, I wouldn't be asking you to jump on a phone call straight away, would I, Nick? Like
No.
it doesn't make sense.
No.
So you made the point quite rightly. Engage people using normal language, questioning, engaging, much like you were at a barbecue or some kind of event where you met someone in person. What would you say to them at the barbecue event? You wouldn't just lead up and start pitching your products or services or your company. You're going to start asking some questions. You're going to get to know them. You're going to qualify them and see if there's something that they're interested in. So, for example, if I met a local business owner, I might ask them, "Oh, great, how's business going right now? Are you looking to take on more clients? What?" And if they say to me yes, then I might start talking about some of the ways that they can do that and asking them what are they doing currently. If they say no, I'm fully I'm maxed out, max capacity, I'm not going to ask them if they're interested in generating more leads.
Right. Exactly.
That would be ridiculous.
Yeah. That's just being a human. If there's not a need, then don't push.
But that sadly is not the case on LinkedIn, because people just think I need to push my own message without realizing we're human beings, two human beings. Treat the other person on the other end of the internet as a human being, engage with them as a human, and you're going to get much better results.
Yes. I mean, just the simple interaction of going to a restaurant. you're getting sat down at a restaurant, and whatever the server, whoever it is, they're setting you to your table. Imagine that person that sits you down to say, "Hey, what do you want to eat now? Are you ready? What do you want to? Are you thirsty? Do you want some? How about some dessert?" Like, no one should ever feel like that in a restaurant. But guess what? It happens every day on LinkedIn. And yes, the salesperson, whoever's trying to sell their product or service, we all know how that feels. Like, I guarantee you, I probably got 1 or 2 DMs this last week in my LinkedIn where someone's pitching me this long letter, long message. They've not even said hello to me. I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's not, I mean, they've just wrecked their any opportunity to build a little bit of trust, a little bit of rapport. When you see the long messages, you know it's copy and paste. You just know, you know it is. And that just, nobody likes to be pitched. So what would you say? You said do's and you said don'ts. So could you share with me 2 don'ts and then 2 do's for LinkedIn?
Great. So let's start with one of each, right? So my memory can cope with it. But so a don't related to your point is don't write long email length type messages on LinkedIn ever. The only exception where you can get close to that is if you're sending InMail. InMail is LinkedIn's equivalent of a cold email, where there's a subject line and there's a message and you're reaching out to people whom you're not connected with. And just tell me quickly, don't make me work to understand what it is you offer. Don't waffle. So if get to the point quickly and get your message across succinctly. And even if it's not for them, they'll probably tell you, but you haven't wasted their time in the process unduly. So that's an important don't. Okay. Does that make sense, first of all?
It does, yes. Don't leave. Nobody's has time, their bandwidth. They don't want to spend 5 minutes or even 2 minutes on a direct message. You've already been lost when they have to scroll twice. They're probably not going to read that, which just means, okay, not effective.
100%. And it's similar on email. You don't want to be sending big, long emails to people who don't know you. Now, if you built up a relationship with them over time, that's different. But if they don't know you, keep everything short already. So it's certainly the same rule applies for email outreach too. So if you want to come on to a do instead, and I think the biggest challenge people have is with messaging. What do I say? Like, they may be experts in what they do, in the service they provide. They get great results for their clients in whatever area, but they don't know how to approach prospective new clients to engage and interact with them and to qualify them and have them potentially become clients. They don't know how to do that. And so my number one tip and advice for people in that situation will be to lead with value in advance. Okay. That's the number one tip. So value in advance. So what do I mean by that? Offer to give people free information about the topic, the outcome, the solution, the results that you get for your clients. And they're going to be able to accept that information and read it. And there's nothing they need to do. They don't have to jump on a 15-minute phone call, because nobody wants to jump on a 15-minute phone call initially with someone, right, that they don't know, unless they're really, really interested. And that's rare. So for the most part, give them the opportunity to consume some media, some information about what you do and the results that you get, and then ask them for feedback. What did you think of the PDF report that I shared with you? What did you think of the event that I invited you to? So I'm a big fan of using those kind of information lead magnets, and 2 of the best formulas, well, 3, I would say. So PDFs are great. PDF blueprints, I like to call them. I have working on one right now with a client, and we've just sent out 49 messages to business owners, and we've got 3 leads. So people saying yes. And it's because we put a lead magnet together about a really big problem that those business owners are facing right now, which is how to recruit A-star talent in a very difficult to hire labor market.
Yes.
Okay. A very hot, very important topic for almost every business, not just in the US, also internationally too. And so that, but I didn't say to them, would you like to jump on a call? And I can tell you more. No, we led with value by offering to give them some free information up front. And the people who said yes, they've raised their hands. What does that tell you? They are interested in that topic. Now they're a lead. So But you didn't just pitch them. You gave them value, and they could have said no, it's not for me. But you haven't felt like you've come across as a sleazy salesperson. You're coming across as an expert offering to give people valuable information that could improve their business and their situation. That is what experts do. Experts don't just roll up and pitch and sell. They lead, they give value, they educate. And that's the kind of positioning you want to have on LinkedIn compared to the salesperson that's just, close all the time.
Yes, looking for that sale in the next 2-3 days. I understand, like we're all in business and we all want to grow, but not everyone is ready. And when you give, whether it's a PDF or some kind of value, maybe it's a short video, you're giving that to 49 people. You already know 49 people are not ready today, but there's a certain percentage that are. So finding those people that are, yes, hey, we'd like to learn more. Well, the other 45 or 46, they might enter that buying window in the next 30 days or 3 months. Because you've offered that, you've planted a little bit of a seed just to say, hey, if ever this problem comes up, or maybe it's a problem and you're not aware of the problem, here's a little bit of information for you to help you with your business. Use it at your leisure, and I'm going to accept you where you're at. And when you're ready, I'm ready to help you, which is probably one of the best approaches ever, especially on LinkedIn, because you don't have the same kind of interaction when you're meeting someone face to face or through a phone call, like a cold email. It's really a great approach. I agree in terms of the value. You definitely want to give value to people. It's a great way to attract other people.
Well, let me ask you this question, Nick. How many times does it happen to you? Because you're on LinkedIn a lot, so you know LinkedIn very well. How many times do you get approached by people on LinkedIn offering to give you high value information for free upfront with no catch?
How often do people offer some, like a high level?
High value information, a PDF, a video, an event of some kind with about a topic with no catch, right? With no just, hey, are you interested in this? If you are, let me know and I'll send it over to you.
Yeah, that doesn't hit. There's usually some kind of catch.
There's normally, can we jump on a call for 15 minutes, right?
Yes.
It's very rare for people to lead with this kind of information up front. So what do? You differentiate yourselves. I don't care if you're selling SEO and there's a million other people selling SEO services. If you're the SEO provider that leads with a PDF of how you get results for your clients using SEO, you are in the 1% of SEO providers in the world in terms of marketing and outreach, because 99 out of 100 are not doing that. So who are people going to listen to? I was speaking with a client and they're in the market for an SEO provider. Who do you think they're going to pay attention to? The person that provides value up front, or the ones that just says, we can do SEO and a million other things, let's jump on a call?
Yeah, I think we know the answer to that, don't we?
I think we do.
I had Beth Mastery on my show about a little over a month ago, and she was talking about this very thing, is just leading with insights. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a list of everything that you offer. It could be a list of some of the things that you offer, but then also peppering some other pieces that are part of that issue that maybe you can't help with, but they still see that, because if they reference that and like, oh, wow, like we're missing this, they're still going to think of you because you still provided that, which is wonderful. And it's just the right way to approach business, is just by, being that servant and just helping. Like, all right, what can I do? What can I help you with? Because at one point you're talking about recruiting, right? That's not, I mean, that's going on all over the place. You might need to send that to 4,900 people.
Well, so let's talk about scale, because one side of the coin is have a good offer, have a good message to reach out to people, position yourself as an expert, not as a sleazy salesperson, right? The Jordan Belfort term, scales. LinkedIn has the ability to scale when you know how to use it. So it's a little bit like, having a fast car and knowing how to drive, right? So it's one thing to have a Porsche, but if you don't know how to drive, how a Porsche would drive, how it handles differently from regular cars, you're going to end up off the side of the road in no time. So LinkedIn is this vehicle that you can do amazing things. And I guess I've learned over the years some of the tricks in the trade about how to do enormous outreach. So for example, for my clients, and for myself, I generate typically hundreds of new connections per week. I'm probably averaging between 150 and 200 new connections. These are actual connections. I'm talking about the connection requests that have gone out.
Right.
I'm
They're
about
coming
new
to
connections.
you. You're not just trying to connect. Like they're coming to you.
Yeah. So these are new connections, high volume, and then you can reach out to them with your quality information, your quality offer up front, and that's going to generate a large volume of leads. So that's one thing. But I mentioned events earlier because I'm an enormous fan of LinkedIn events. I'm hosting a LinkedIn Live event on the 12th of May, actually, with my business partner Jeremy Schaller. And what's great about events, you don't have to use LinkedIn Live, you can use Zoom or any other platform, but LinkedIn events in general, LinkedIn allows you to invite up to 1,000 people from your network per week to any one single event. So wow. I don't know how many connections you have, Nick, but you could invite 1,000 of them per week for a month to an event that you're running in 4 or 5 weeks time. That is a lot of invitations. That's a lot of outreach, because right now LinkedIn is hot about events. It loves events. Why? Because events are a great way to engage people who don't know you yet. You're leading with value in advance by inviting people to an event. If you're interested in this topic, great, come and join me. If not, no problem. So it's a really good way to qualify people. And LinkedIn, they don't really want you to send lots of connection requests and lots of messages to people you don't know, because what they really want is high engagement. They don't mind you doing that if the messaging is good and the responses are positive. But if you're sending out hundreds and hundreds of messages and you're barely getting any responses back, or they're all no's, that's a poor customer experience. And LinkedIn doesn't want that. But people generally love events. So hosting events on LinkedIn are great. You can also ask LinkedIn to capture the email address of the person attending your event and actually get permission to follow up with them using their LinkedIn email address. So LinkedIn allows us to do all of this fantastic stuff at scale to generate qualified leads who are interested in our products and services and the topic and the value that we provide.
Are you someone that attends events and hosts them, or a little bit of both? Where do you spend time with it? Sounds like events are a pretty important piece to the puzzle of getting leads. Where do you spend your time?
Yes, I have private clients that I work with, and I get them virtually all putting on events at some stage, because in fact I have some clients where every single month they're putting on an event. And we call them masterclasses. So they're more than just webinars. They're more interactive, higher perceived value, but actually there's no cost. And every single month I have business coach clients that are generating 20 registrants. Many of them are new people that coming to their event. You might say 20 is not a lot. Well, what's the value of a client to a business coach? It's typically $25,000 a year, and they stay for multiple years. So it's a very high value client that they are looking for. They don't need hundreds and hundreds of people. They're looking just for the right people. But this is the one strategy. And again, speaking to my client earlier this week, they do all kinds of different strategies. The one strategy that's consistently performing well for them is hosting an online event, promoting it via LinkedIn every month, and generating new qualified people who are interested in the value that they provide, whether it's planning for their business, whether it's team building exercises. So events are just a gold mine on LinkedIn. And again, very few people are doing them. Why? Because you need to put a little bit of effort in. You've got to put an event on. You've got to give some kind of value. And most people are just lazy, Nick. They just want to take the easiest approach. How can I find a copy and paste template that somebody else and just send that out, and magically that's going to print meetings, appointments, and sales for me? Well, that's, the lazy route is rarely the one that gets results. But events absolutely are great. So yeah, I attend them. I put them on for my clients. I host them myself. And it's some of the best thing that you can do, because especially LinkedIn Live, the quality of the video streaming is way superior even to YouTube and Facebook. So if you're showing presentations, slide decks, kind of dense graphical material. Like the quality is like being on cable TV, frankly. It's phenomenal. So you really it positions you as an expert, and it gives a great experience to people that are consuming your content, your ideas, and your media. And that's why I run them.
You talk about becoming an authority in your space. If anyone, whether someone's watching this on YouTube or they're listening live or listening, on pre-recorded podcast, we've all physically been to events. We've seen speakers on stage. They got the microphone in the hand. That just because you're in the audience and you see them speak on stage, that automatically gives them a certain amount of credibility because they're holding the microphone. And that's the same thing with doing these events through LinkedIn. Is there a little bit of work to put an event together? Yes. A little bit of research to put some slide decks together to create some value for the attendees? Yes. But like once you put one of these events on, now you have information. You could continue, you could create a wonderful presentation, masterclass, right, James? And you could continue to do the same thing over, each week if you wanted. And that amount of credibility is amazing, because just like when someone's sitting in an event and there's someone up on stage, it's really the same thing. When you're on the microphone and you're speaking to your audience, there's that same level of credibility. So when you do reach out, you can always reference, hey, I'm not sure if you saw me on, on this event. I did want to just reach out. Not sure if you got the recording or not, but hey, here's a recording. Go ahead and take a peek, listen. And when you're ready, we're here to help.
100%. So I had one client, they did an event, they turned the event slides into a PDF, and then we then used the PDF to reach out to people afterwards as an evergreen lead magnet, and it works fantastically well. So so events are a tremendous way of engaging people. But I got to say, there's a real big revival for LinkedIn groups as well, Nick. They've had a bad rep over the years because, let's be honest, LinkedIn groups are not Facebook groups. Facebook groups, you see wild engagement, huge interaction, very sticky, good experience typically. People love using Facebook groups. That's why they're so popular. LinkedIn groups tend to be a little bit more kind of reserved and quiet and slightly less interactive. But they are brilliant for building a niche, a community, a tribe, people who are interested in their particular topic or subject that you specialize in. So I have multiple clients that I help grow LinkedIn groups. And again, we use outreach and other approaches to grow the membership of the group. But for one client in the cyber and risk governance space, I've taken their group from zero in November 2021 to over 1,000 members as of right now in May 2022. So I've grown their group from 0 to 1,000 members. And these are highly targeted people that are members of their group, senior executives, risk and compliance governors, technologists, and as well as business execs and leaders. And this has helped them tremendously engage with their prospects and find ways to solve problems for their clients. And they're not naturally that good at selling what their service is. They're good at what they do, not naturally good at selling what they do. Sound familiar? But the group, the community, gives them the authority because it's their group. And everybody can keep coming back to the group. They can do their content marketing in their group. And they can also keep people out of the group they don't want. Competitors, people that are false matches for their avatars. So you can, it's a garden that you can gate and control and make sure that only the people in there whom it makes sense to be in are in that environment. So groups I think are going to make a big renaissance on LinkedIn. I'm now really working with all my clients to help build groups for them because it's just doing wonders for those that I've been working with to do that strategy in recent months.
And it's a good use of your time because if you have a community built of 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 people, these are people already that are they're part of your avatar. They're part of your perfect client. And instead of going on and like trying to search through the feed and search through your contacts, you've already got this community built in. They've accepted that invite. They're in that, and you can communicate simply to them. Correct?
100%. And so here's the thing. People say, what do I build a group about? Well, don't build it about your company and brand unless you're really big and well known. Nobody really cares about your company and brand while you're small. Build it around the topic. So, for example, when I was in the e-commerce space, we created a group. That was on Facebook. That was the natural place to do it more than LinkedIn for that market and that product and service. But I called the group Amazon Business Owners because that's who it was aimed at. It wasn't aimed at the brand of our business or our company or our product or service. It was for a community of people who identify with that with that persona. I have another client that's created a group, and they are looking for. So they have a software that is applicable for people that use SQL Server, again in the technology space, but only for people that have, let's say, 75 or more servers in their organization. So large data teams that have a large number of servers. They created a group just for people that use SQL Server, but in large instance environments.
Okay.
Because it's very different if you have just one server. It's very different from you have hundreds of servers. You have completely different issues, completely different problems. And there is no community on the whole of LinkedIn to serve people that are using that particular database software in large numbers. It's crazy. So if you become the go-to people that creates that niche for that community, that tribe, who meet that criteria, you dominate that market. And that is what their software and services are there to do, is to support people in that situation. But obviously the group is there to help people. It's not just about selling stuff. It's about genuinely how to help people that face common problems. Mm-hmm. And if you can own that space, it's incredibly powerful, Nick, incredibly powerful. And more people should work that into their marketing strategy, because it's an asset that you build for your business that will pay off in spades over the years.
That's really interesting in terms of the community piece, because I remember being part of groups on LinkedIn, say 5-6 years ago. I've really only gotten, my engagement on LinkedIn has been really serious, probably like the last year and a half. And I remember having a LinkedIn profile and being part of groups, but nothing really happened with it because people probably didn't really know how it worked, or something just didn't take off, like LinkedIn stories. So we've really covered some great information here today, James. We've talked about some do's. You've talked about some don'ts. You've talked about how not to pitch people right away when you get the connection. You've talked a little bit about events, which I got some great notes on for the events. You've talked about LinkedIn groups. Man, like, we've only had 30 minutes just to talk a little bit about this. I know that you could probably go on and on and on about all this whole topic, but if people want to follow you and connect with you, what's the best place for them to find you online, James?
Well, you could look at James Watson on LinkedIn, and you might find me. Obviously, there's a rather famous James Watson who invented DNA, so I have to compete with him on Google. But if you go to Twitter, I've got known as LinkedIn King. So at LinkedIn_King on Twitter. I kind of started a Twitter account during lockdown boredom about 14 months ago, and I've got a following of people on there, as I've just been sharing lots of threads and ideas and tips about some of the stuff that I do on LinkedIn. So people get a lot of value from there. So I'd recommend Twitter. It is ironic, right? I mean, LinkedIn is good for authority. Twitter is really good for fast-paced interaction. It's a little bit more dynamic as a chatting and interact and messaging network. So at LinkedIn_King is where you'll find me on Twitter.
Perfect. And I'm also going to put your handles and your links into the show notes. So if you're listening to this and you want to know how to connect, go into the show notes below the video, below the recording here, and you can go ahead and go ahead and connect with him. And if you got questions, and there's some questions you have around the areas that he's looking to serve others, reach out, give him a follow, reach out to him. And he does have some free resources that I'm also going to put into the show notes as well. So thank you so much, James, for attending the show. I really appreciate all the information that you shared with us today. And any closing comments, James?
So first of all, thanks again for the opportunity, Nick. I think it's what I enjoy doing most is really opening people's eyes to the opportunity that exists on LinkedIn. And so if anybody's in, let's say, the business to business space or providing high value services to human beings, then you really want to seriously look at your strategy on LinkedIn. How can you be leveraging LinkedIn? Because I think people tell me all the time they find it a much easier, friendlier platform to be able to use compared to many others to build relationships and generate leads and opportunities for their business. So if you're not active on it right now, you're scratching your head about how best to use it, come and follow me. I'll share some tips for free and a whole bunch of resources. One thing you can do, I'll leave you with, I get a lot of questions about LinkedIn profile. How do I optimize my profile? You can go on to YouTube and you can search for LinkedIn profile optimization. LinkedIn profile optimization. You'll find a 60-minute masterclass from me. It ranks right about 3rd or 4th on YouTube. Gets about 50, 60 views a day. Really good feedback on that. I was going to sell that as a paid course. I just gave it away for free on YouTube. So if you want to have some ideas how to spruce up your LinkedIn profile and look $1 million before you do your outreach campaigns, definitely check out that masterclass on YouTube.
Perfect. And thank you again for joining the show. If you found some value on this show, feel free to share this with one person. We're looking to make an impact. And the best way that we can do that through the Language of Excellence podcast is if you found one tip, one hint, one trick, feel free to share with family, friends, coworkers, because we want to get the message out there, help you grow, we all grow, we all become better, and we win. Have a great day.